Welcome, everybody. At this time, I'd like to call to order Planning and Zoning Board meeting, City of Lake City, 7 March 2023. Will all please rise for the pledge and the invocation. Please recite with me the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the invocation.
Let's bow our heads. Lord, thank you for your many blessings. Bless our deliberations this day. Give us wisdom to make sound recommendations. We ask for these blessings in your name, Lord. Amen.
Amen. You may be seated. Mr. Angelo, please call the roll.
Ms. McCollum?
Here.
Mr. Nelson?
Here.
Mr. Cooper? Mr. Mann?
Here.
Mr. Carter?
Here.
And Mr. Lighty?
Present. The meeting minutes of our previous session, February 7th, 2023, were distributed in electronic format on Tuesday. I trust everyone's had the opportunity to review those minutes at this time. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the minutes as presented electronically? Seeing and hearing none, is there a motion for their adoption?
Motion to adopt the minute.
Hand vote, all in favor? All opposed? Very good, we have minutes. We're going to begin with old business. This time we have a tabled item from our 4th of January meeting, petition CPA 22-09 and petition Z 22-07. Both of these submitted by Carol Chadwick as agent for the proponent. At this time, Mr. Angelo, would you like to introduce, or we just need to motion to untable it? So we can
Motion
discuss.
to untable it.
We have a motion to untable these two petitions.
Motion to untable these two petitions.
So, motion and a second. Hand vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Very nice, unanimous. It's now untabled. Would you like to go first, Mr. Angelo, or can we bring the proponent to the podium first?
That one I can go first on, we're just canceling it.
Okay.
All right, so this was for CPA 22-09 and Z 2207. The applicant has chosen to withdraw that application with the North Florida Planning Council, and which was allowing for the RMF2 multifamily. They resubmitted a new application, which will be heard later on the agenda, which is CPA 23-02 and Z 23-02. With a rezoning to a future residential multifamily 1.
At this time, does the agent for the owner have anything to say in this matter? Can we move to a vote to accept the rescission?
I don't.
Alrighty. Motion to accept the rescission of the two petitions.
Move to accept. Second.
Motion and a second with Mr. Carter. Will you please call the yeas and the nays, Mr. Angelo?
Ms. McCollum?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yay.
Mr. Cooper? Mr. Mann?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
And Mr. Lighty?
Yay. All right, by unanimous passage, these two petitions have been rescinded from our order of business. That concludes our old business for the evening. Moving on to new business, we have a site plan review, petition SPR 23-07, petition submitted by Travis Hasty, acting as agent for Radiant Credit Union, the owner, for a site plan review for Radiant Credit Union in the Commercial General Zoning District located on Columbia County parcel 06209 and 06211 regulated by City of Lake City Land Development Regulations, Section 4.12. Mr. Angelo, would you like to come up and introduce this for us before I bring up the agent for the proponent?
All right, so this one is SPR 23-07. It is for Radiant Credit Union, and it is for a site plan review. The plan is to build a new structure where the current Old Kins building is, right next to the current Radiant Bank. It is conducive for use per section 4.12.2.8. And they do have a driveway permit from the county allowing them to be able to use the road at Hackney Terrace, and also from DOT, they're working on the permit from that to access that one.
Thank you. All right, at this time, Mr. Travis, you want to come down to the podium? Raise your right hand. Swear the testimony you're about to give this evening, to the best of your knowledge and ability, is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Very nice. Name with spelling and legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
It's Travis Hasty, Travis, Hasty, Hastay. The address is 11801 Research Drive, Alachua, Florida 32605.
All right, what would you like to accomplish this evening?
So we're just looking to get a site plan approval on the property adjacent to the current Radiant Bank. The applicant owns all three parcels kind of in that area there, and following this approval, we would be looking to adjust the property line for that to make 2 parcels instead of 3. Basically, the site plan we have, and then the remainder would be 1 additional parcel, which includes an existing office building and the existing Radiant Bank, which would be vacated with this project.
Anything else that you'd like to say?
Yes, sir.
All right, do we have any questions from members of the board for the proponent? All right, you may be seated. Thank you. Do we have anyone else here in attendance that would like to speak either for or against SPR 22-07 as presented by Agent of Owner? Well, y'all didn't come for this one? This isn't why you're all here? Okay.
I'll say I'm for it.
No,
I'm
right.
for it. I think we good.
Right, at this time, there being no further public comment, do we have a motion to close public comment?
Motion to close public comment.
Second.
Motion and a second, Carter and McCellum. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, discussion amongst board and city departments. Do we see anything in this we gotta nitpick a bit?
Looks good.
No heartburn from any of the folks in the hall? Fantastic. All right, do we have a motion to either approve or disapprove SPR 22-07 as presented by Agent of Owner?
Motion to approve SPR 23-07.
Second.
Carter on the motion, McCellum on the second. Mr. Angelo, will you please call the yeas and the nays?
Ms. McCollum,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Mann,
Yes.
Mr. Carter,
Yes.
and Mr. Lyman.
Yay. All right, congratulations, your petition passed unanimously for 23-07. Moving along through new business, we have petition SPR 23-06. Petition submitted by David Winsberg, agent for Michael Boris, owner, for site plan review for Brooklyn's Coffee in the Commercial General Zoning District located on Columbia County parcel 07610-002, regulated by City of Lake City Land Development Regulations, Section 4.12. Do we have the agent with us this evening?
Yeah.
Make yourself close to the podium, you're up next. Mr. Angelo, do you care to introduce this for us?
Alright, this one is SPR 23-06. It is a site plan review for Brooklyn's Coffee Shop, which is gonna be located in the same plaza where Farmers Furniture and Fishtails and that is, will be in that plaza right there. And it is conducive with the land use of 4.12.2.1. At first, at the time of the staff reviews, if you notice, there was some issues with the sewer and water. All that has been addressed and redone on the new site plan, and everything is good to go with that. There's no concerns on the water and sewer now.
Okay, so all the hiccups that were identified by departments have been covered now.
Correct.
They able to tap into the fire lane and all that stuff?
Yes.
All right, Mr. David, your turn. You swear the testimony you're about to give to the best of your knowledge and ability is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Very nice. Name with spelling and legal address of record for Robert.
Name is David Winsberg, Winsberg. Address is P.O. Box 2815, Lake City, Florida 32056.
All right, what would you like to accomplish this evening?
We're requesting that our site plan be approved for her small coffee shop that she wishes to build.
All right, anything else?
Unless you have any questions,
Any questions from the board? This is a modular yet freestanding structure, right?
I think it's supposed to be like a container storage building?
Similar,
Shipping container storage?
similar to the one that went over by the, is it the Department of Revenue Office, Urgent Snowball Place?
Across from the highway patrol.
Yeah, containerized, but semi-mobile if necessary.
I'm not sure exactly how the building itself is gonna look.
Okay, I think we've seen some of those around town before.
There's one on the west side too, by
Okay,
Harvey's.
is that a containerized one?
No.
This one's a little modular building.
Okay.
So it's gonna be a drive-through, I assume, it's not a sit-down.
Yes,
So that the traffic is gonna be routed pretty effectively with arrows and stuff.
that is shown on page 5. With proposed traffic arrows where they'd actually paint on the road, so it's very clear to everybody exactly how they're supposed to go around.
Good.
Anything else for the agent for proponent?
Who's drinking all this coffee? Oh, Lee.
You seen that place in the morning? It's very popular.
The lines at all the small little coffee places out in the parking lots are pretty long.
Yeah.
I think there's still some market capacity that hasn't been tapped into yet. All right, anything else for agent of proponent? All right, seeing none, you may have a seat. All right, is there anyone else in attendance that would like to speak either for or against petition SPR 23-06?
For it. I'm for it. I think it'll be good.
So y'all aren't here for the coffee one either?
They'd like a sample.
Yeah.
All right. There being no further public comment this time, do we have a motion to close public comment?
Motion to close public comment?
I'll second.
Motion and a second, second coming from Mr. McMahon. Hand vote? Aye. Hands down, opposed? All right, public comment is closed at this time. Discussion amongst members of the board and city representatives. We cleared up all the heartburn that was originally identified.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right, motion to approve or disapprove SPR 23-06 as presented by agent of owner.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion with the second coming from Mr. Carter. Mr. Angelo, will you please call the yeas and the nays?
Ms. McCullough?
Yeah.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Mann?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
And Mr. Leidig?
Yay. All right, unanimously, site plan review 23-06 has been approved. Congratulations, Mr. David.
Thank you.
All right, maybe this is the one everyone's here for. So at this time, we have another series of joined petitions. We will be simultaneously discussing petition CPA 23-02 and Z 23-02. Both petitions submitted by Carol Chadwick, acting as agent on John, please.
I'm John Viplo.
There we go. To amend the future land use and official zoning atlas of the land development regulations, City of Lake City, by changing future land use from residential moderate to residential medium density, and changing the zoning district from residential single family 2 to a residential multifamily 1 on property described as follows: Columbia County parcel 08045-000. This time, Mr. Angelo, would you care to introduce this petition?
All right, so this one is for CPA 23-02 and Z 23-02. They're looking to rezone the parcel to build a multifamily complex there. They're looking to change the future land use from residential moderate and to residential medium, allowing for 8 units per dwelling acre. And then they're also looking to go from residential single family 2 to residential multifamily 1, which again, like I said, would only allow for 8 units per acre. And it is conducive for use on, per the 4.9.2.3. And the city staff has looked over this. We do have concerns with infrastructure as far as the sewer, the water and all that, which that will be addressed and as the site goes forward through the site plan. And as we get sort of the capacity numbers that they will need. But as far as the zoning, everything is conducive for that. The county does have some concerns over the traffic, and they are currently working with the county. And they have submitted a traffic study to the county. And the county is also doing a third-party traffic study to look at the traffic on the site.
Okay, so the issues you stated that city and county still have with this, they're the same issues that caused us 2 months ago to table this while folks had the opportunity to get together in a conference room and think this thing out?
Correct. Yeah, and a lot of like the sewer capacity and all that won't come into play until you start kind of going to a site plan and seeing what the actual capacities are. Right now, we have to look at it as 175 units. Because that's what would be allowed to be able to be built on that, would be up to 175 units.
And just for everyone's benefit, can you repeat the figure of, in the prior series of petitions, what would have been the maximum unit load for what?
The prior one would have been a little over 400 units.
Okay, so this is dropping from 400 units to 175.
Correct.
As zoned, but when the site plan comes out, obviously.
Could be a lot less
It may
or-
have a lot
yeah.
less.
Yeah.
Depending on how the space is used.
Right.
Anything else for Mr. Angelo before we let him take a seat? All right,
Well, I'm sorry, I don't know where this is located. There's no streets or anything.
What?
Where's that parcel of land?
we can get to that when the proponent comes up, or the agent for the proponent, she can describe where it is in reference to everything. Ms. Carroll, if you would. You swear the testimony you're about to give this evening, to the best of your knowledge and ability, is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Very nice. Name with spelling and address of record for Mr. Angelo.
Carol Chadwick, CarolChadwick, 1208 Southwest Fairfax Glen, Lake City, Oregon. And to answer this lady's question, before I do anything, it is the parcel of land on Bascom Norris Drive immediately adjacent to the girls' softball field
That's
that
what I
has
was
been
thinking.
cleared.
But I thought one place I saw they want to put 1 unit per acre, and it's 50 acres, so that would be 100 units total.
You know, I don't have that
Well-
information right now, but if I could continue.
Please tell us.
We would like to request tabling these applications until the April meeting, until the county has had time to complete their study of Bascom Norris Drive.
Okay, you are requesting the board to table this, you have, what? You said in April?
Yes, to the April meeting. However, if the county doesn't have the analysis done, then we'll come back and request that we table it until May, until the county has their analysis completed.
Okay, and you're local, so it's not a big drive out of your
No.
way to come up here
No,
next
it's-
month just to say, I need another month.
Oh, yeah, and I'm happy to come in to see you all.
Is this the third-party traffic study for this site, or is this a broader study?
Well, Mr. Bimploff has done a traffic study for his site, and I understand there is another development that did a traffic study for their site, and so the county is getting an independent consultant to review both of those and look overall at that area to see what, if anything, needs to be done to improve Bascom Norris.
Since the February meeting, right, since that other was approved?
Yes.
Okay,
All right, kind of in a parliamentary zone of limbo here. Let's go ahead and, at this time, you may be seated. It is duly noted that you are requesting a tabling. A lot of people drove up here. There's nothing really for you to talk about right now since the tabling has been requested. But just to respect your time for coming down to engage in the civic process, if anyone that would like to come to the podium and get sworn in and get their name on record as being either for or against this, please do so. And when everyone has had a chance to get their name on the record and their opinion on the record, we will entertain a motion to grant Ms. Chadwick her tabling. So even though we don't have anything to look at yet. Okay, ask that first.
I just wanted to ask Mr. Brown. Just real quick, obviously, we, kind of upon your recommendation in January, we tabled it. Any idea where we're at in that process?
Yes, so what's happened, Mr. Chair, is what we've done now is we've actually had the opportunity with each developer to meet with the county individually. What we've done is we went in and looked at the projects, we looked at the roadway, we looked at the number of homes based on max capacity, the most they can put on there. So their site plan may reflect a different number. We are looking at the max. With saying that, as Mr. Angelo said, that what we decided to do along with the county, Mr. Kevin Kirby said that they would, and their engineer, Chad Williams, they actually decided they would go out for that third party to look at all the projects together so that whenever the improvements were made for the road, it would be one bite of the apple, if you will. So that's kind of where we are. That study is not back yet, which is the reason for Ms. Chadwick requesting to table it, because even though we are moving in the right direction to get that information, as of tonight, we don't have it.
Okay, in addition to these two residential projects, the traffic study also looking out into the future based on what the zoning in that area is it looking at just the project area around these two residential undertakings, or is it looking at the totality of that segment of the Bascom Norris bypass?
Correct. We're trying to look at everything at one time.
Okay, so it's more holistic than just these two things we've seen in the last couple months.
As of tonight, there's been 2 projects presented to the county, but as we move through this, we're looking at everything. There was a member from DOT in the meeting, so we had basically a member from everybody at the table. It was very well thought out. We discussed all the details to the best of our ability, and the decision was made to go to the third party to ensure that the traffic study that was presented to us compares to the third party.
Neutral outside observer, always a good thing to have.
Correct.
Do you have anything else for him, Mr. Carter? All right, you can have a seat. All right, so at this time, those of you that have been here before, you know how this works. I'm gonna start down at my lower left here. I work my finger around the front row, to the second row, to the third row, et cetera, et cetera. A quick show of hands, who plans to speak, even though we don't have a petition to speak on? All right, so starting, if I went like that, okay, you would be first, sir. You swear the testimony you're about to give this evening to your best ability and skills is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very nice. Name with spelling and address and record for Mr. Angelo.
Mark, M-A-R-K, Divine, D-E-V-I-N-E, at 315 Southwest Challenger Lane in Lake City. We've been here at least once for this particular development, but we were also here for another development that was just around the corner that was gonna be mixed use of commercial and residential, and then went to all residential. And I think you voted on that the last time. The proponent for that development had a very nice presentation. And I'd like to request that we could have, or you would request, a presentation for this proposed project when it comes up. It's kind of been, you know, we get bits and pieces, we get the documents and we go through them, but that's not easy for a lot of us. And the benefit of having a presentation that outlines, this is the property, this is what can be allowed, these are the changes, this is the impact, who reviewed what, did people approve it, or they just didn't see a problem with it? So there's been, and there's statements that come up like, for this one, Tennis Forever, there's still concerns about water and sewer. Well, for me, it's like, well, what does that mean? Still concerns. And they talk about water use, but I didn't hear anybody talk about fire flow. So how extensive is the concern? And then we have traffic, which is very dramatic in that whole area. And I went out and took pictures of the two postings that were there today and talked to the lady on the corner there, forget her name, Faye, yes. And she was very concerned about it, wanted to go to the meetings but was unsure about going. But I would think it would help all of us if we could have a presentation at some time that we could absorb, and then we'd be able to ask questions and to present our concerns in a more valid and precise fashion, just concerns with water and sewer. So does that seem reasonable to have that request?
To allay some of those fears about getting a cart in front of a horse or missing out on something to do with wastewater or runoff, what have you. The presentation that had occurred at the previous meeting, a lot of what was being presented was material that was more suited for once we moved to a site plan review portion of the things.
Mm-hmm. So what phase are we in now then?
We're just in amending the comprehensive atlases for future land use to assign it into a category where a project like this could happen.
Mm-hmm.
We're not ready to look at a site plan, we don't know how many units. Also putting the proper zoning on it so that a project like this could happen.
Mm-hmm.
This will see several more administrative steps, at least one of those being the SPR, site plan review, when it comes to this board again, and kind of like the coffee place you saw earlier and the credit union we saw earlier, it's at that point that we get to see how much impervious space is on the site, where are the traffic turnouts, where are the hydrant locations. This is a rezoning and a reclassification in the planning atlas.
Mm-hmm.
This is the initial step one. Now, Ms. Carroll, if you're amenable to doing a PowerPoint presentation on those two different zoning classes to help smooth out some ruffled feathers from members of the community, you're more than welcome to do that. Even if it's something as simple as asking our IT representative to put up your PDFs from your submittals, making no extra work on your end, just discussing on the big screen. So, as the public commenter said, it'll give the citizenry a better idea of what's being proposed, because unfortunately, and I really wish this wasn't the way of the world, but not everyone speaks zoning like we do. So there's that.
We'd like to be able to do that though.
Did that cover your
Yes and no, just that, what I think I heard you say is that you review the zoning and then decide if you're gonna make a change, and then the specifics of a new project with that new zoning would be discussed.
at a future meeting.
Right,
This
and I
is just-
understand that process, but to me, that's a little backward, because you change the zoning and then you talk about the project, and people like us say, wait a minute, we didn't know it was gonna be like that. Well, we changed the zoning to this. It's like, well, I kinda understand that, but I didn't know you meant condos or high rises or rentals or owner occupied. So that's kind of an issue that I think some of us, I am struggling with. You change the zoning, it's like, oh, wow, they changed, like the last one, you changed the zoning, and it's like, oh, well, I guess it's over then.
Typically, you don't hire the engineers to make the blueprints until you know if the building is even allowed to go.
Yeah, I'm not talking about blueprints, I'm talking about schematics. You know, this is what it looks like
The
as
site
it's
plan,
currently
what they
zoned.
plan to do with the site.
Yes, yeah,
And that comes in the site plan review phase, which
okay,
would be the
but
next
to
step
me,
after
I'd want the site plan to be able to then say, oh, that seems like a good plan, well, let's change the zoning to allow that plan. Now, that might not be the way to do it, but to me, it's like, well, I wanna see what you're planning. If we just change you change the zoning, and we're all out there like, huh, okay. And then we see the plans that are coming, we're like, what the heck is going on? Cause we aren't, we don't speak the same as you do.
We don't all speak
And,
zoning.
and a schematic or the PowerPoint, they didn't have dimensions on it or, turning radiuses or thin elevations even, although this is a pretty flat site, but just a layout that shows the public what the potential change will be if you change the zoning. Because once you change the zoning, the way I understand it, it's a done deal.
And there will be preliminary sketches and concept sketches in documents they're coming to us in a couple of weeks about, no doubt. But do not expect it to be the firm fixed site plan.
No,
That
and that's
comes
not-
in the next step. But there will be
So
some
then when you change
conceptual
the
sketches.
zoning, then what's to allow for any modifications? So say you went from single-family home to high density, you changed the zoning, then it's changed. Right, so they can put in high density, and we're confused as to what that means, what's the impacts are, how tall are these buildings gonna be, that kind of thing. So that's my thought and frustration in that it's hard for me to respond to something if I don't have a layout and a plan similar to the presentation that was done on the previous project. I understand your schedule and how that works. I'm just asking if there can be a modification somewhat that before you vote to change the zoning, we have a better idea of what that zoning actually means in concept.
Let's see what the agent for the owner comes back with for their presentation once we untable this. And I bet there'll be some more meat and potatoes in it than what you saw the last time this came on the floor.
Well, thank you, and I hope you understand our inabilities to be as aware of zoning impact as you.
Well, as a board, we also, I fully appreciate your motives and your confusion. We just don't have the ability to go counter to the land development regulations and do an SPR before a Z or a CPA. For a project that has this much community interest, may be beneficial, but we are obligated to follow the land development regulations as written.
Mhm.
So that's where we're at on that one. Anything else before you take your seat?
No.
Well, cool, thank you for the comments.
Thank you all.
And let's see, you were sitting over there, so now you're gonna come on up.
Brenda Susan.
You swear the testimony you're about to give this evening, to the best of your knowledge and ability, is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Very nice. Name with spelling and legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
Brenda Susan, Soussan, 315 Southwest Challenger Lane, Lake City. I have a couple of questions. In my mind, the reason they're changing the zoning is because the gentleman wants to put a business there. And in order to put a business in a zoning of single families, he's got to get multiple family zoning. Why can't he move his business to a business location? Why does he have to have his business in a residential location?
It's not for us to decide.
Okay.
An owner has a right to try to do whatever they want with their land.
All right. And the other thing is, there's another parcel of land directly across the street from this parcel we're talking about. And they have completely cleared that land, and I think in anticipation of the zoning change. So I don't know if you're aware of that, but they're only egress.
The zoning will only apply to the single parcel being discussed.
But you set a precedent, don't you? By giving one person high density, how are you going to say to somebody else, no, you can't have it, when they're right across the street?
Every landowner has the right to petition the planning and zoning board
Okay.
for a change.
All right,
Everyone has the right to come to us and say, I'd like to do this with my land.
I agree, I'm just putting it out there, because the only egress from that property is either onto Bascom Norris or onto that little side street. So just putting it out there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. If it looks like I'm lagging a bit up here, I'm just trying to make notes, so don't think I'm ignoring you. Okay, moving over again. Well, we have to jump back and we're gonna get to you, Ms. Lumley. Anyone over here? End of the row, black shirt, you wanna come up?
Yes, thank you.
Come on down.
My name is Sophia Merritt.
Let's get to this part first.
Okay.
You promise to the best of your knowledge and ability that the testimony you'll give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Very nice. Now that part.
Okay, Sophia Merritt, 135 Southeast Oak Hill Street, 32025.
All right.
Well, I called because I have friends that live over near the area that's being.
Speak into the
that's being
microphone.
zoned. I'm sorry.
Speak it, pull the microphone down.
You pull the mic down a little, you make it a little more carry that
I
way.
came because I have friends that live over near the area that y'all have under consideration to rezone. And this is my hometown, okay? And I am proud to say that I'm glad to see y'all wanting to rezone and improve Lake City and have the added growth. I know there's a shortage of housing in Lake City. And this is not gonna be low-income housing. It's gonna be good housing for single families. And that is a, ballpark near that area where, and it's gonna be duplexes and quadruplexes from what I understand. I had a moment to talk to Ms. Chadwick, and she reassured me that it's gonna be very nice housing. And, I think it's something that's really needed. And they build Disney World down in South Florida, Central Florida, and if they do that with all the water when it's swampland, I'm sure y'all can handle the water problem, okay? And the road that needs to be widened and built, I can see a viaduct going over that area, so it won't be near the ball field or that house. I would like to see the improvement, it is greatly needed. Okay, thank you.
You may be seated, thank you. All right, so from where Ms. Merritt was sitting, we're going to come over a row. One down, Ms. Lemley. You swear to the best of your knowledge and ability that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Very nice. You know the drill.
Barbara Lemley, Lemley, 393 Northwest Fairway Drive, 32055. My question is the development and the road. And if the road ever needs to be widened, I don't know how close the structures will be to the road. So if any site plan is done, I think needs to take into consideration that one day instead of a 2-lane road, that would be a 4-lane road. Bascom Norris would change its shape. And the other thing, it may be outside your realm of jurisdiction.
Let me address the first point.
Okay.
I can't let any cats out of any bags until this becomes untabled, but I do believe there will be some schematics that will demonstrate what you're talking about on item 1.
Okay, the other one may be outside your realm of jurisdiction. Lake City struggles financially, and I have property within the city and pay city taxes, etc. That there needs to be an impact fee, not only, on every project that comes within the city. There needs to be an impact fee. And I asked the city manager, but he didn't know what the impact fee was. Can Mr. Angelo say what the impact fee would be for these units?
As far as the impact fees go, that is handled by our utilities coordinator, Shasta Pelham. She looks at each project individually because the state mandates that everything is governed a certain way. So for like a hotel, some of them go by every fixture. A house will go by how many bedrooms. A church goes by max capacity. So every development is looked at individually based on what kind of development it is. And then that impact fee is based off of that.
Well, currently, what is the impact fee, say for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that's built within the city limits? What is that impact fee?
I don't have those numbers. I don't know those numbers because every one of the development is so different because of the number of fixtures, all that. Shasta.
So you don't have a ballpark figure?
No, ma'am. And
Okay.
I would be just jumping a number out there, and I don't want to do that to you. And but I know there is a impact fee associated with every home build and with every new development built. I just don't know what those numbers are, but Shasta Pelham, our utility coordinator, she's the one that handles all that and figures all that up for us.
Mr. Steve, by any chance are those numbers posted on the city website under the fees and assessments section?
I don't believe they are, to Mr. Angelo's point, that it depends on the development, what they're putting in internally. We can get those numbers. If you'd like to come down to customer service tomorrow, we can explain it clearly, how it's derived and what that number is though.
It'd be nice just to have a ballpark figure between 2,500 to 4,500, just a ballpark figure. And my last area of concern is lot sizes within Old City, Lake City. You tear down a small structure and it's not big enough to build anything on because it's not yet a 1/4 of an acre. And I was just wondering if that's something that would be addressed by you guys to change a lot size to have a small structure.
Okay, so first of all, who's tearing down an old historic structure without going through the Historic Preservation Board?
Ask Wendell Johnson and Helfenberger, they managed to do a lot of stuff.
He ain't the sheriff of these parts anymore.
Oh, I know, but just saying something that was torn down, say on the other side of the railroad tracks, where there was a small house, it's torn down, and it's only, 90 feet wide.
The process you work through on that, the third hat that we all wear, in addition to being Planning and Zoning and Historic Preservation Board, is called the Board of Adjustment. And if the lot lines and setbacks do not conform, because it's a non-conforming lot, you would apply through the Board of Adjustment to get what we would commonly, in layman's speak, call a variance. But by appearing before the Board of Adjustment at a hearing like this, that petition can be heard, and upon examination of the evidence and the testimony, the board can grant a adjustment, AKA variance.
Right, I
for those
understand
purposes.
that can be done, but why cannot a whole area where the lots are this size be done so someone doesn't have to come in front of you saying, you know, instead of saying has to be 0.25 acres, now you can do 0.19 acres. A blanket for all the area.
That would be something city council would have to introduce,
Okay.
or at least hear, and make a amendment to the City of Lake City's land development regulations. Board of Adjustment deals with issues on a parcel by parcel basis.
Okay,
If you want to completely rewrite municipal code, that becomes a city council issue.
okay, thank you very much for your time.
Anything else? Come on, I got you here and you had to miss the last one.
Yeah, and you guys approved what I didn't think you should approve.
It wasn't unanimous.
Well, thank you.
All right, thank you, Barbara. All right, so from where she was sitting, let's see, my finger was going left. We got, Mr. Brown, you got anything else? Okay, we'll go to the back row, yellow shirt. Jumping across the aisle in the back, dark blue shirt. Proponent? Proponent, you want to come up and say anything?
I can just add one sentence.
I swear you in. You swear the testimony you're about to give to the best of your knowledge and ability is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very nice. Name and spelling and legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
Anjan Viplav, ANJAN PO Box 219, Lake City, Florida 32056. But the previous, I just wanted to add that the previous approval that you gave was a PRD where they had to actually submit a final site plan. Mine is just a preliminary step one out of the many 10. I will definitely do my best to present the final plan, but it is as simple as I'm just moving my tennis academy to there. My lease is over, I'm moving into my own land and have a few nice houses, which both, actually the city has an obligation to its citizens of having 4 tennis courts for every 15,000 citizens. So we are lacking in tennis courts. We are the capital of tennis. We have 7,700 tennis centers across Florida. 57 of them are in Gainesville, many of which are having 16 courts and more. And then in Orlando, we have about 104 tennis courts on one place, which is just about 2 hours away. So this is a simple relocation of a business with additional housing to, support the property. That's about it. I mean, I'll do my best to do a site plan and a final site plan. Though here, for sure, we're putting the cart in front of the horse. You're making me do this traffic study. There's a lot of undue burden on me to do the traffic study, and kind of come out with the final site plan when we are still at step 1 out of 10.
Yeah.
But I'll do my best to.
It's not something we're used to doing here.
I mean, we're not supposed to do that, but I will do it just because they're lovely citizens. They have genuine concerns about what's going to come up there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So now we jump to the back wall, starting on the right. Sunglasses? Do you wish to speak, ma'am?
She had her hand up earlier.
If you wish to speak, please come to the podium.
You, I know.
Oh. Swear the testimony you're about to give this evening to the best of your knowledge and ability is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I hope so.
I do too. All right, name with spelling and legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
Elaine Phillips, ELAINE, PHILLIPS. 356 Southwest Air Park Glen, Lake City, Florida, 32025. I live in Cannon Creek Air Park. I probably should just wait until the next meeting, but I'd like to see this just stop. There are so many concerns about this project. First of all, the traffic on Bascom Norris is already horrendous. In the mornings, afternoons, noons, if you're traveling on Bascom Norris, the traffic line at the stoplights is long. It may take you 3 times to get through the traffic light because of the traffic. Can you imagine what adding these apartments would add to the traffic on the Bascom Norris? I'm also concerned about the sports complex. You've got young kids and their parents out there, and now you're putting all these apartments with other kids that are going to be coming over and trying to see what's going on and things of that sort, and I think you're causing problems for the sports complex. But something else I'd like to bring up that I wish you all would consider. Before we came here, I've been in Cannon Creek 32 years. We're now the second oldest family in the air park. I'm not the oldest person, almost, but not the oldest family. Umesh and Shilpa Matri are the oldest family in the air park. Before we came, there was a family by the name of Sickles. Howard flew out every day to do his job. There was a utility line across the end of the runway with the big orange ball on it that he had to miss each time he took off and came in. People who don't know about the airplanes and how they take off and land and everything said to the utility company, well, let's take that ball down and that line down, and then he doesn't have to worry about it. So they thought that was a great idea. And they told Howard that when he came home on that particular day, they would have the line and the ball down, and it would be safe for him to land. Well, these people don't know about airplanes and what it takes for them to land and how many feet they have to be up off the ground or how close they have to be. They took down the ball, but they didn't take down the wire. You can't see the wire in the airplane. Howard came in, hit the line, and he's dead. That's because there were people who were making decisions that did not know what's involved for airplanes. How many homing or housing develops do you see built up around the big airports? How about Lake City Airport? Where's all the housing developments out there by them? How about the other airports in other cities? Now, because we're not quite as big as they are, doesn't mean that we have to protect our airplanes and the people who live there. That doesn't mean that you can add all these developments around us and expect them to be happy with what's going on. I have known in the 32 years that I've been around air parks, of air parks that were way out in the country, people came out and built houses around them. The first thing they did was complain of the noise. Okay, they made the rules that the airplanes had to land at a certain time and only take off at a certain time. Then that didn't suit them. Then they said, well, it was too dangerous. They didn't want the airplanes flying over their property. Well, how do you take off from an air park and not fly over property that they put right in front of you? Then they complained about the children. Oh my goodness, they're going to crash and hurt our children. Well, guess what happened to the air parks? They were shut down by people who were working on boards, such as you all, and they thought, well, this air park is just too dangerous for all these people, so they can't be there. Now, we started in 1979 to build that air park, and I wish you all would come out and see what we have done. We have made a beautiful development out there, at our expense. We paid for the roads, we pay for the repairs, we don't get our mail delivered to our homes, we have to go to a different box at the end of the road. We have done this all ourselves. We don't want you doing something that is going to destroy us just because it looks like a good idea to you, or you think you're going to make some more profit off of taxes and things. We pay taxes, but we take care of all our expenses in putting in the water and the roads and everything of that sort. So please, don't do something that is going to take us apart and tear us down and take us all away from us, just because you think it's a good idea to have this. Why can't this development be somewhere else away from the air park? So please, before you consider all this, please consider what you're doing. I realize that it's beyond you. If you remember James Montgomery, I know James Montgomery would never have approved putting this air park or this buildings and things of this sort in the path of the air park. I remember Howard Sickles. He lost his life because people didn't know what they were doing when taking down the ball and not taking down the wire at the same time. So please don't do this to us. I'd like to see this stop before it goes any further. It's not that I don't want people to have homes and everything, but I want them to take us into consideration. I want you all to realize that if you approve all this, what you will end up doing to us, you will shut us down. Not this year or next year, but in the years in the future, because those people will be afraid of our airplanes. We've had no accidents since Howard Sickle, and nobody's gotten hurt, and that was all because of the people who were taking down the electric ball and the wire didn't know what they were doing. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Good.
You have a question, sir?
Thank you.
Oh, thank
Be
you.
seated. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
All right, from where her seat was, moving down the line, anyone? Ma'am? You swear to the best of your knowledge or ability that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Very nice. Nameless spelling and legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
Suzanne Weinsack, first name Suzanne, last name Weinsack, Wienc like cat, EK. I just want to make some comments. First of all, to Elaine's talk, Cannon Creek Air Park is thriving. Let's keep it. It's something you don't have a lot of. Tennis courts, you have Young's Park, and there's also Annie, I forget the name of it, Malik's Park. Okay, they have tennis courts. Unfortunately, they're not being used. Okay, this gentleman has an idea, but also the other one I wanted to bring up is Tennis Anytime, I think was the proper name. It was thriving 12 years ago. It's defunct now. It's not being used. Why aren't these being sought at as places for playing tennis? So what's building homes around it gonna do? You also had tennis courts at the both of the golf places. I don't think I think one of them's really popular, but not the other. So is this really something you're trying to expand on, tennis courts? So you have something thriving, it's an air park community, and we want to keep it thriving. So please, let us do that. Don't mess with us. And these developments around Bascom Norris is gonna hurt. it's eventually gonna affect us. Thank you.
All right, from where she was sitting, starting with the gentleman in the bright blue shirt, moving down. Mr. David, you got anything you want to say about this? All right, red shirt at the end. All right. You got pointed at. You did this on purpose. Come on down.
Of course I did. Everything is pre-planned, just like everybody pre-plans.
Swear the testimony you're about to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your knowledge and abilities.
Absolutely.
You know the drill.
Liz Fryer, 160 Southwest Challenger Lane, Lake City, Florida, 32025. I'm here like I've been before. I don't represent just Cannon Creek. I think I represent the entire Lake City community in saying that I'm happy it's being tabled, and it was tabled before, and now they're voluntarily tabling it for further studies, which I think is fabulous, because those studies should have not just been done for Tennis Forever, but also for others which have been passed. But going forward, as the petitioner requested, he did make a very strong statement saying, yes, Florida is very involved in sports, not just tennis, sports in general. So it's New York, my home state. But at the end of the day, he had a lease with the company who had the corner lot by Sisters Welcome and Baskin Norris. And from the very first meeting that we had, I questioned at that time about the fact that it had been abandoned for so many years and is in disrepair and falling apart. But that answer never came. Nobody gave us the answer to that.
We're not talking about that parcel, we're talking about this parcel.
Yes, but it's the same company. It is Tennis Forever who went ahead and managed it and made the money from it and supposedly grew it. And all of a sudden, it's gone and it is in disrepair and abandoned for over 7 years. So I don't understand if it wasn't successful during the time that he had it leased, how this much larger parcel, which includes apartments plus tennis courts, can be in any way, shape, or form be evident that it will be successful, as the previous one was obviously a failure. Because I did look into some biz as well as economic of how much they earned for the years that they were in business. And I believe it was something like 12 employees at $210,000, that was minimum wage as far as my math does the work. So then he supposedly had a lease for about 10 years. I've been in Lake City for the past 8 years continuously, and for the past 8 years, that place has been abandoned. So I don't, and the lease supposedly started in, if I'm not wrong, it's at 2014, so that doesn't also compute. So that's why I'm here. I'm speaking on behalf of, if it was unsuccessful before, and it was much smaller, how can it be successful now with 80% more numbers for people to come and play and stay as rental apartments? When he had a couple of units in that little corner before and he couldn't make it a go. And that's what my comments are. I want you all to think about that because math doesn't lie. At the end of the day, the zoning will be changed. And my personal opinion on this is that lot will be sold. There will be no pre-planning on it. The zoning will be changed. Not even an act of Congress can change it afterwards, or the Supreme Court. And they'll sell it, make a much larger profit for that plot of land, and sell it to whoever wants to build on it. And that's my comments for today. So please keep all that information in mind, because at the end of the day, If you open a coffee house, for instance, and it wasn't successful, why would you open 50 more in the same area? Would it make any sense as a business person? Absolutely not. There's more to this story, so stay tuned. Thank you all for your time.
That was a tricky thing you did there, Ms. Pryor. Don't do
I
that
wanted to make sure
again.
everybody else's position was brought up.
I know. All right, so at this time, do you want to come up and directly rebut, or do you have something you want to add to your previous comment?
I just want to add one thing.
Okay.
That Tennis Forever LLC came into Lake City 8 years back. We were back to capacity there. And the children that played at my academy, they won the gold medal for our Columbia County after 14 years. They played, many players who played there represented Florida and went on to play international tournaments. We had camps there, we had Lake City Columbia Tennis Association camps there. We allowed Columbia kids to play there, the school kids to play there. And ma'am, if you haven't looked at my books and you don't know my books, please don't make sweeping statements which business is successful or not successful, okay? It's ridiculous. Yeah, I'm just making a statement that please, unless you look at the books of a business, you can't say it's successful or not successful. The very fact that we were able to go and buy out land there is success. And I'm not even getting into that, but I take it personal because there's blood and sweat into this whole thing.
We don't look at people's books, it's a simple planning and zoning board here. All right, at that time, everyone's had a chance to go on the record. What, we had another hand? What are you seeing, Sean?
I thought there was one other person.
Okay, this time everyone's had a chance to speak. Steve, you have anything else on behalf of the department?
Only that the staff would recommend tabling.
Okay, Mr. Angelo, you have anything else from your neck of the woods?
No, same.
Right, this time we have a request from agent of proponent for a tabling of this issue. Do we have a motion?
Motion to table CPA 23-2 and Z 23-2.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Before we call the vote, I do have a discussion issue. From a parliamentary standpoint, given the interest on this, Mr. Angelo, we leave the public comment open on this, right? And the signage remains on the property and letters from interested citizens can be added to the file while we're waiting on the next series of meetings?
Correct.
Okay. That was the only thing I needed cleared up. There's no other clarifications or discussion from members of the board. Mr. Angelo, please call the roll.
Ms. McCollum?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Mann?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
And Mr. Leidy?
Yes. All right, unanimously, we have tabled CPA 23-02 and Z 23-02 until after we can get the traffic studies and other issues cleared up. Very nice. There is a small error to the agenda for this meeting's order of business. Under workshop, it says none. However, there was a request relatively late to add in a generalized description for the benefit of the public on the difference between the traditional residential multifamily zoning classification family and the, was it the PRDs?
PRD, Plan-Residential Development.
And you're ready to speak to that this evening,
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
I can do that.
Very nice. Please come to the podium and present your workshop.
All right, so the purpose of this workshop for the board is to, I know we have a lot of new board members, maybe have never dealt with a PRD in the last Well, it's the first time we've kind of seen one. And going through the LDR, a PRD is a lot different than what a regular rezoning is. And it's more of a, just like it says in its name, it's a planned residential development, so it's got an actual plan to it. So with that, they have to kind of have a preliminary plan in place. Once that is done and that rezoning is heard, then a PRD then would go through the steps as far as getting a final plat and then going to the actual final plan. And once that final plan is approved, then they can start construction from there. Some of the caveats to a PRD that a lot of people don't understand, where they're different from a regular rezoning, is on a PRD, if the applicant does not submit a final plan within so many months, then without going to city council and requesting a extension, that property then goes back to the original zoning that it was. And so that's the difference between the two. A regular rezoning, once it's rezoned and it's done. And unless somebody comes along and rezones it. And that same thing, even if the final plan is put into place, if construction doesn't start within a certain period of time, and let's say the developer sells the land or whatever, that development then goes back to the original zoning. And if it's not done out within that plan, it eventually goes back to the original zoning, and that has to be redone again. So any questions on the difference between the two of them?
Taking a look at what we have in the LDRs for the planned residential developments, in general, within a PRD, maybe I just haven't gotten to it yet. In general, because it is a planned residential development, there's a certain percentage of green space they have to have, certain percent of common areas, certain percent of this, that, and the other. Would you categorize the lot size and the setbacks, since that's a topic we've already had come up this evening? Are they generally tighter or a little more generous in a PRD as opposed to a specific named zoning unit like an RSF1 or an RSF2?
It really just, it depends on the development and what the setbacks are. The whole purpose behind a planned residential development gives you a lot of flexibility. So some areas could have some tighter setbacks where some areas could have a wider setback, but you could have that zoning in that, where a typical zoning district, your setbacks are your setbacks. There is no difference. This is the way you can go about that and still have some tighter setbacks without having to do a variance for each property on that area.
And one of the conforming uses of a PRD to that end would be simulated townhouses, something that has pretty much a zero setback off of the sidewalk.
Correct.
Anything else on the differences between the PRDs and the traditional RSFs and RMFs that we've seen coming through as presented by Mr. Angelo? Very good. Thank you for taking the time, sir.
Thank you.
There being no further items on our agenda, do we have a motion to adjourn Planning and Zoning Board meeting 7th March 2023?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, who beat him to that one?
Yes.
Okay, we'll call Nelson the second on that one. By hand vote, all in favor of adjournment? Aye. All opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, first meeting is over. At this time, we will call a 5-minute break to allow the room to clear unless anyone wants to stay for our next order of business, which is the Historic Preservation Board. Short agenda, shouldn't be all that exciting, but all are welcome to remain. Otherwise, I'll give it 5 minutes for the room to clear. Please take your side conversations outside. And IT department, since we are in between sessions,